Emmanuel here with a quick take. Check it out. I want to correct a mistake I made in an earlier video. The mistake is this. It's regarding how to contextualize the emergence of the product called the integrated circuit. I begin with an analogy, right? And I will use this analogy that I used incorrectly in the previous video to explain what the significance of the integrated circuit is. So the correction will be that that I just use it how I meant to use it. So I'm not going to point out the specific mistake, but rather I'm just going to correct it. So the integrated circuit, what is its significance? You're walking down the street of a city like Nairobi in a country like Kenya, and you want to get some food from a street vendor. You happen upon a street vendor selling chapatis. Now, this street vendor, you do not expect him to have lobsters, prawns, shrimp, caviar, just some of the foods that come to mind when I think of what is expensive and hard to cook, right? You don't expect the street vendor to sell these foods because you know that just by intuition and by the intuition informed by your experience, that the likelihood that this chef has the ingredients, the skill, and the equipment to produce this food for you in Nairobi, specifically the street vendor, is very low. So you buy your chapatis. But if you happen upon a Michelin restaurant, 3-star, or a 5-star hotel, very high end, and they offer the same on the menu, you wouldn't hesitate to order it, or at least you would believe that they can actually fulfill that order. If in fact the street vendor claimed that he could fulfill the order, you would be suspicious. And you might question his ability to produce this product. You would, because you doubt the skill and the availability of the tools, as mentioned earlier. Now, zoom out to the rest of the country, 12 million households in Kenya. You reasonably expect that many of these households are going to have chapati at some point during the week, multiple times, in fact, and that to a high frequency. You will not expect that these households consume lobster to the same degree, right? You don't expect that most of these households eat lobster, prawn, shrimp many times during the week. You also do not expect that many restaurants in Kenya or Nairobi can make this lobster and the shrimp and the prawns. But you do expect that even the highest end restaurant and the chef in that restaurant, even if he refuses to make chapatis for whatever reason, that if he was forced to, perhaps even at gunpoint, he would make these chapatis. Yeah, like he would have the ability to make them and could probably make a very good, mean chapati. Right? But back to the restaurateur, the street vendor, you don't expect him to be able to make the lobster, although he could also make the chapatis. Now, take lobster and replace it with integrated circuits and chapatis with crude petroleum. On the consuming side, we do expect that most of the world consumes petroleum, right? That is why changes to the cost of petroleum and cost structure affect the prices of so many other goods and services, because so many of our activities have crude petroleum as an important, or even petroleum in its refined forms as important components, right? They affect many of our activities. Changes in the price of oil will affect the cost of many activities. Now, when it comes to integrated circuits, in the present day, integrated circuits, just like the crude petroleum, is consumed everywhere you look, from the wealthiest households to the poorest, from the wealthiest regions of the world to the poorest regions of the world, right? Now, this is where the integrated circuit differs from the lobster. Whereas the lobster and the integrated circuit both take a lot of knowledge, a high intensity of knowledge to make, the lobster is not consumed by all households because it is particularly still costly on a per unit basis. But the integrated circuit, on the other hand, although it demands a high intensity of knowledge to produce, it actually occupies such a small physical space, and its cost is so low that many households across the world actually consume in the integrated circuits, both direct, well, when we talk about households, it's only indirectly as components in other devices like computers, refrigerators, etc. On the production side, not many can produce integrated circuits, right? So on the production side, actually the integrated circuit resembles the lobster, because only a few chefs can produce lobsters, and in the same way, only a few nations and firms can actually produce the integrated circuits. On the other hand, crude petroleum is extracted at a lower knowledge intensity, right? So that is why we find that both wealthy and poor countries, both nations with a high level of knowledge intensity and nations with a low level of knowledge intensity, can actually extract crude petroleum, right? From the United States to the Equatorial Guinea, from Saudi Arabia to Nigeria, many countries actually produce oil. From Venezuela to, take your pick, of a country with a low manufacturing footprint, many countries actually can produce crude petroleum, just like many chefs can actually make chapatis in Nairobi. That is how we can start to understand just how important the computer chip has become. The computer chip is like the petroleum of the modern age in the sense that it is everywhere, right? It is everywhere. The global trade in this product is only growing in value. Not only is the global trade in this product growing in value, it is soon to overtake the value of the trade in crude petroleum. It's been Emmanuel. Cheers.